Episode 3 starts out with a flashback of Vanya writing her tell-all book. It started off as a hit, but quickly went to the bargain bin, and Vanya quickly went out of the spotlight back to reality, where she's in an orchestra and she's basically the third chair, which is no different than being the third string. After the practice, she compliments the girl who is ahead of her, and the girl is just flat out rude to her and basically says, you know, you've been third chair all these years. Maybe it's time to find something new to do with your life because this clearly isn't it. It's another hit on Vanya's confidence, and she's feeling pretty down, so she decides to head to the woodworking place that Leonard works at. Leonard's pleasantly surprised to see her and starts showing her around and shows her all the things that he creates, including something that he stayed up all night making, which is a little violinist, which is obviously supposed to be for Vanya. He ends up asking her out to dinner, and she is kind of taken aback, but says, yeah, sure. Says, it's weird, like I've only known you for a little bit of time, but it seems like I've known you my entire life. At that moment, Allison gets in touch with Vanya and says, we need you back at the house now. We have a family emergency. And the emergency is that when Allison watched the tape of what happened to their father, she's convinced that the mother had something to do with it. So they go to the mother and they start asking her, and she's about to say something, but she just stops and changes the subject. Now, there's only a couple of people at the house, and they're trying to find everybody. Diego's off, and he's gone to the department store because he's trying to find the two people who have shot up the place. Klaus is sleeping in the back of number 2's van, and number 2 has no interest whatsoever of meeting with the family because he's trying to save the world. But eventually they do all end up meeting, and they're trying to make sense of this whole situation. And finally they go, it kind of makes sense because Dad created her, and he must have treated her like shit because he treated all of us like shit, and she must have snapped. The monocle keeps getting brought up over and over, and Diego finally gets tired of it and says, look, I had it. I found it in Mom's things, and I knew that if you, Luther, were to find it, you were going to just assume things and go off, so I took it. Now, Diego is very protective of the mother, and you find out why thanks to a flashback. Before one of the missions, the mom is helping all of the kids get ready, and you find out that Diego actually had a speech impediment when he was growing up, and he had a tough time getting over that, but thanks to the mother, he was able to overcome his speech impediment. So Diego is very close with the mom. Now, number 2 could not care less, so he's not at this meeting. He's actually staking out the Eye Institute and the doctor in there to try to figure out what the hell's going on with this guy. He's still trying to figure out how to save the world, and he's quickly running out of time to do so. But the issue is, Hazel and Cha-Cha are still after him, and they go to the donut shop and end up questioning the woman who owns it, and she says, well, he actually had a tattoo. And they're able to track him down to the Umbrella Academy. So they show up at his front door. They break in looking for number 2. Of course, he's not there, but everybody else is. And the issue is they have no idea what they've walked into. They have no idea about the Umbrella Academy. They don't know anything about these kids. And they start with a shootout, but it's not going their way. Cha-Cha and Hazel barely escape with their lives, but Luther is injured, and when he takes off his shirt, you can see he is all messed up. He basically looks like a half monkey, half human being, like Planet of the Apes kind of. It's not a good look for anybody. The more shocking thing is nobody in the house had any idea of what the hell happened to Luther. So this is coming as a surprise to the audience, but also his brothers and sisters. At this point, though, everybody is on edge because of what happened, and Diego ends up taking it out on Vanya, saying, you never should have been here in the first place. So she flees to Leonard's house crying, saying, I really had nowhere else to go. Diego then heads up to the mom's room where she is doing needlework, but she's literally needling into her own arm. So Diego knows what he has to do. He ends up pulling the plug on her and saying, it'll be all right. But the biggest issue is that Hazel and Cha-Cha didn't just escape with their lives. They escaped with Klaus, who they are now holding hostage. All right, on to episode 4.